Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Charlotte with the Happy Ology podcast. This is episode 6. And I have to apologize. I've had a bit of a sore throat for the last couple of days, as well as I'm trying some different things with the audio. So it might sound all sorts of strange. So thank you very much for bearing with me. This is a new endeavor, a new attempt, and we're still really just sort of figuring things out. So thanks for sticking with us. The topic today is entropy and the speed of light. This is one of my maybe favorite physics principles turned personal growth principles. And I'm really excited to share it with you guys today. I was a bit hesitant to share it because it can be a little bit physics and math heavy. But follow along, and I'll try to explain it as best I can. I think the beginning's probably going to be quite heavy, and then the rest will be more, hopefully more understandable. It might be a bit easier to listen and watch the video component for some graphs and things, but I will try to explain them as best I can. Let's get started. So we are going to talk about Einstein's famous equation today, E equals mc squared, which the equation basically showed that all material in the universe has a certain amount of energy because of its mass. And there's actually a qualifier that's been added on to this that we don't talk about too much to basically account for the fact that all particles are always in motion. So like I feel like I'm sitting still, but I'm rotating on the Earth, and the Earth is rotating around the sun, and the sun is rotating in a galaxy, and everything in the universe is always moving. And so there is a modifier, E equals mc squared, over the square root of 1 minus b squared over c squared. And so we get this, we get a velocity component in there too. And so now we're talking about energy, mass, velocity, and there's actually a universal constant, the speed of light. So when we graph out this equation, you have to picture a standard graph, and along the bottom, going from left to right, we've got velocity. So the speed at which something is traveling. And then we've got up on the y-axis going from bottom to top, we've got increasing energy. And energy, they typically is considered to also be entropy. And entropy means the chaos of a system. So the faster things move, the more chaotic they tend to be, or the more maybe unpredictable they tend to be. Sort of think like a car crash when you're traveling at 20 kilometers an hour is just sort of a little bump. But a car crash when you're traveling at 120 kilometers an hour is going to be a huge kind of explosive thing. Maybe there's a rollover, maybe, things just go winging out in all directions. So the faster something goes, the more entropy there is. And when we graph it out, it's what they call an exponential curve, because we have over here on the velocity scale, at some point, we're going to hit c, the speed of light. And with this equation, basically, as something starts moving as fast as the speed of light, it starts to get infinite energy. And this equation has always been taken to mean that nothing can ever travel faster than the speed of light, because it would just take too much. There would just be way too much energy and too much entropy. And we kind of know this in our lives too, the more that we accelerate, the harder it gets to go faster and faster. Or same with a car. If you're driving along at 20 kilometers an hour and you want to double your speed, that's not a big deal. But if you're driving along at 120 kilometers an hour and want to double your speed, that's a huge deal. So the faster something goes, the more energy it takes, and the more chaotic or the more entropy it develops. Of course, beyond the speed of light, this equation can actually continue to be graphed. But what it requires is a belief or a tolerance for the possibility of negative energy. And we get actually the upside down curve. So to try to describe it for you, before, to the left of the speed of light, so if we're traveling at a velocity that's slower than the speed of light, the curve is going to, running from left to right, the curve is going to kind of go along, and then it's just going to slowly creep up until it really starts to accelerate fast. It's a positive curve. When we move beyond the speed of light and we accept this idea of negative energy, which requires actually the square root of -1, which the mathematicians do not like at all. When we move beyond the speed of light, we actually get a mere reflection of that curve, where when we're just past the speed of light, things are still moving with a very high amount of negative energy, or a very, it would extend infinitely downward on the energy scale. But then as we move faster and faster and faster, that energy line starts to narrow out, and it starts to work along towards 0. Okay. Complicated and maybe a little bit unclear about what the point is. If we start looking at velocity, not as a physical thing, not as a physical speed, but we're looking at it as vibration, right? Because everything is in vibration. All of our molecules, everything has this matter-energetic duality. And all of our molecules, all of us is vibrating. And so now we look at the speed at which things are vibrating, and we talk about this when we talk about the frequency. We talk about the frequency of vibration, and the higher the frequency, the better things are. We say, so the higher the frequency, the better the vibes. So good vibes, high frequency. Good vibes, high frequency. So now we start thinking about, okay, and we think about this entropy energy type of thing. And so if we think of the velocity speed not as, or the velocity axis, not as, how fast a car is traveling, but how fast our molecules are vibrating, or how fast our being is vibrating, we start to realize that the lower the vibration, this equation shows the lower the vibration, the more chaotic things are. And as we move up to the speed of light, things become infinitely chaotic. They get crazy. But as things move beyond that speed of light, things are still really crazy. They're actually crazy in the opposite direction, and whether you want to for me, I don't really think of it as being like a positive energy and a negative energy. I think it's the same scale. It's still energy. But as you move past the speed of light and as you go faster and faster beyond the speed of light, that entropy, that chaos, decreases. And what I really take from it is that, if we start out with low vibes and we want to shift somewhere, we need to, and we want to shift and we want to get better. There's this universal constant that we call the speed of light that kind of makes this barrier. And it makes this barrier because things get really, really hard as you approach this barrier. And what the speed of light is exactly, I think is up for debate. As far as we would talk in kind of a spiritual or personal growth or energetic healing sense. I for sure have some theories that, the speed of light is the point at which, matter crosses over from being physical to energetic. Ooh. Or from being, a positive or a negative. And we talk about everything on a spectrum, and the speed of light to me is kind of this, is the middle. The speed of light is the balance point. But when we talk about this from a personal growth standpoint, okay, here's the bottom line. The higher we get our vibration, as we go from being kind of in a negative place, and we're trying to move into a positive place, and we need to raise our vibration from, bad vibes to good vibes, or we even need to just move from kind of a physical understanding or an energetic understanding of the universe, we're going to encounter resistance. We are going to encounter approaching our constant, the speed of light, where things get really, really hard because we end up in infinite energy, infinite entropy. But if we can just pop ourselves across that through willpower, through understanding, through kind of this idea of just leaning in and saying, I'm not going to go on this infinite curve. If we can sit, in that seat of the self again, or the seat of the soul, and say, no, I'm just going to choose to pop on through this really tough spot, things start to get way easier, right? Because, as soon as when you're just passing that speed of light sort of flip over spot, things are still really hard. There's still kind of infinite chaos going on. But as you go faster than that, as you raise the vibration higher than that, things really start to even out. We actually get a lot less entropy. We get less entropy, less chaos. Things really start to align. And so for me, this is what alignment means, is this says, this is where I've gotten through the hump and now my vibrational frequency is aligning with everything that's good, and I'm vibrating at a very high level, and everything just falls into place. Nothing is chaotic because everything just falls into place. So what is the big picture here, and why did I really want to share this with you guys, other than to bore your ears off for 20 minutes? Personal growth is hard. Personal growth actually gets harder the more you do. But there is a silver lining. So I think of it as kind of one of these hump curves. and to me, this is the same as our, up and down sort of curves that we had when we were looking at velocity and energy. The only difference is that I've moved the negative energy curve up onto the top here. And like I was saying, I mean, whether I don't really see the negative energy. I think of it as being just a different kind of energy. So I put it back on the top, and we get this curve where we go up into infinity, and then we come back down from infinity. All at, this constant, the speed of light, or what I like to call the breaking point. The point that seems so incredibly hard to get to. The point that scientists actually say is impossible to accelerate something to the speed of light. And what I picture is that we're all on the far left side. We're, at a low frequency. And a pretty, but we're okay because we're at a low chaos or low entropy. So we start there, and that's kind of the comfort zone. The comfort zone. And then we decide, okay, well, I'm going to raise my vibration a little bit. I'm going to get a little bit better and work on myself. And so now we've got this kind of like, we're starting to increase our frequency. But what we find is that the chaos is also increasing. This to me, this is resistance. This is where you hit that resistance point. And then you go a little bit further and you say, okay, you meet some resistance. You've really got two options. And one is to go back to the comfort zone. And the other is to keep pushing. Sometimes when we've hit that resistance point and we keep pushing, I mean, we are going to come up against some pretty significant resistance. There's going to be major, major resistance. And then we have the quantum leap. Quantum leap, very popular term that basically says that's how you get, if we imagine our stepping stone of personal growth, quantum leap is where you get from a lower rung to a higher rung. Ploop. It goes all at once. It's not like a gentle curve. You have to, jump. You have to leap from one spot to the other. And that's what has to happen here when we hit the breaking point. This is the point of maximum resistance to change or a new level. And we have to quantum leap. We can talk more about quantum leaps in the future, but quantum leaps require a significant amount of faith and intention to go into them. You don't just happen upon a quantum leap. So we have to put the energy, intention, and the desire and faith to jump over this breaking point. But then once we do, we find that it gets really easy. Things start accelerating really fast. And we end up at this point of high frequency and, again, low chaos. So as we are, improving ourselves, and whether you want to say frequency or just, personal growth, personal ability, or connectedness, whatever the word is that you like to use. I mean, you're going to start at a low point. You're going to start on this low rung. You're going to go along and you're going to hit the midpoint, and you are going to hit probably massive resistance. And it is going to feel terrible, and it's going to feel ugly and awful. And you are going to want to rip your own heart out because it hurts so bad, because it's so hard. And I know this because I have just gone through a big leap myself, and it was unpleasant, even after all this time. But what's great is that when you understand this, when you understand that you're going to start low with, and things are going to be easy, and you're going to get midway, and things are going to get really, really hard. But as you continue and you go out into the high frequency, things are going to get easy again. Once you understand that, once you realize, resistance is just a breaking point. It's the point where you can leap. And you start to feel like you can lean into it. And that's what I do when I hit these tough moments, is I say, I understand it because of this principle. I understand what's going on, and I lean in. And we talk about leaning in all the time. We talk about leaning in for different reasons, but it's really just facing the tough stuff and saying, okay, what's here and how do I get through it? And once you learn to recognize that, the personal growth journey starts happening so much easier, so much easier, so much easier. You're going to keep hitting these peaks. So I always tell people, happyology isn't about being happy. Happyology is about being content. Happyology is about a feeling of confidence and security, and knowing that you are where you are in the world, and making your best life. Happyology isn't always about being in the low chaos comfort zone. Happyology is about pushing into the resistance point and pushing back down into the new comfort zone. Maybe zone of comfort. We'll distinguish it that way. And that's the whole point. That's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. And it's, entropy and the speed of light. Entropy is chaos. And the speed of light, again, I think of it as the breaking point. It's where things shift. The speed of light is where things shift from, I hate to say bad to good, but kind of that low frequency to high frequency. It's where things shift from being, kind of a low vibration physical to a high vibration energetic nature. And the faster you go, the more entropy you have, the more chaos develops. But once you get through that breaking point, actually the entropy starts to even out, and we start to hit alignment. And alignment is the whole goal. I mean, that's one of the big buzzwords in the personal growth industry today, isn't it? Is alignment. Are you aligned with this? And what we're really talking about here is are we aligned with universal truth? Are we aligned with our best self? Are we aligned with our purpose and our passion and our personality? Is everything in alignment? And that's the whole goal. And the takeaway message is, when things get hard, lean in, push through, and make your quantum leap. That's the whole point. Alrighty, thanks guys. I think that was a pretty short one today, but thank you for listening. Please do send some comments, send me an email, check us out on the Facebook page. I'd love to know what you thought about this. I know it was fairly physics heavy, but does this type of stuff, does it help you? Is it interesting for you? Or is it just a little bit, I don't know, maybe frustrating, or how are you feeling? Just let me know. I will talk to you tomorrow. Thank you guys. Have a good day.